So, look, amidst all the hype surrounding D23 back at the beginning of September, where Disney announced a bunch of things for Star Wars and Marvel and so on, and the shows The Rings of Power and The House of the Dragon were also hot at the time, they just started airing and everything. Amidst all of that, Disney also managed to sneak in announcements for two more live action remakes. This time, up on the chopping block were Snow White and The Little Mermaid. And you might think that it's not really that huge of a deal because Disney's been doing this for so long that no one really cares anymore. But what's interesting about these particular ones is that in an interview the lead actresses of the movies had with Yahoo Entertainment, and I know, I'm sorry, Yahoo, blech. It was the first source that showed me that these things were even happening, so I'm going with that. But basically, what these two actresses had to say was that their new modern characters won't be defined by needing a man's love. And maybe I'm wrong, but that seems like taking away about half the plot of the movie. Like the actress for The Little Mermaid, Bailey, says, "We keep a lot of the meat of the film that made us fall in love with this film. It's just her, it's her gumption, and just excitement for the life above her world. It's amazing, but it's also updated with the current times because it's not all about a boy. It's about what she wants for herself and her life." Which sounds all well and good, but honestly, if you take out the love story, I feel like that's more than half of the movie's gone. And I'm not an expert on the story of The Little Mermaid, but I could have sworn she just left the sea just to be with the guy, or at least she left the sea and then found out she liked him, and that was her motivation to stay out of the sea. If you remove the love story now, what exactly is her motivation for leaving the ocean or anything? Is it just being a rebellious teen, disobeying her father, needing to prove just how strong and independent she is? Because at that point, that is just as boring a storyline as the original movie's plot. Just saying. I mean, Ursula was basically the antagonist of the first movie. How exactly she's going to fit in now? It doesn't seem to make sense that the Ariel would leave the ocean and stay out of the ocean or do whatever happened in the original movie without the motivation of her actually falling in love. So it's a bit weird. You're basically twisting the story around to cut out a major part of what the original had. And Snow White will be even worse in that regard because, I mean, I don't recall the story well at all. I watched it once like 20 years ago. I know there were dwarves and a poisoned apple, and probably the main character fell into a poison induced coma from eating the apple, and she was only brought out of it by true love's kiss, because that is very scientific. And indeed, as the actress for Snow White, Rachel Zegler, says in the cartoon, she was very focused on finding true love, but now it's not even on her mind at all in this film. But if the story focuses primarily on her love story, what is left when that's removed? Apparently, according to Zegler, she's focused in becoming the leader that her father tells her she can be, and she's trying to stand up to the evil queen, and she's trying to find her own agency and rule a kingdom, which is all incredibly different and sounding from what the original was, because I don't remember any of that being in the original movie. But then again, as I said, I don't really remember that movie too much anyways. But still, it doesn't sound very interesting. And in fact, it feels very generic. Like the standard good versus evil, but now you have the modern strong female lead physically defeating the evil rather than a moral or verbal or something more nuanced, some kind of more nuanced victory. But nope, it's just the regular beat them up kind of thing, it seems like. And in fact, once the romantic plot lines from these movies are removed, and then the remaining shreds of the story are updated and strung together, what's left are undoubtedly very different movies from the originals, like completely. So at this point, why even call them remakes? Why bother with the remakes at all, honestly? Just stop updating classic movies just so that they line up with modern times. Just stop. Make a completely new movie and have that reflect modern times if you absolutely must have that in your movie. Maybe use the old movies as concepts or something, providing a setting, or maybe even make a live action sequel to the original movies. You could use the characters but put them into a different story that doesn't change what the original story was, and go with something like that. Either method would let writers come up with their own updated and truly modern stories, even if those turn out to be boring, condescending, preachy, whatever. And let me be clear here. I hate The Little Mermaid as a movie, as I do most of the old Disney princess movies. I'm not the target audience. I can't stand them. I hate all the singing. So I'm not really familiar with the storylines, as I said. So I'm not bothered by the fact that they're remaking the movies with people of color as the main actors. As far as I'm concerned, it doesn't affect the story whatsoever. Hopefully. It's the butchering of the story that gets me. And it's kind of ironic that I'm defending these films that I hate from the company that made the original films. But that is how off the rails Disney has gone at this point. You don't need to keep updating old movies. They're not video games. People aren't sitting here waiting for the next patch or the next DLC, and they don't need remasters of the movies to go into a new console or something. It's just an old movie that people enjoy. Let it be. But there's another problem here, to be completely fair, and it's the reason all this madness keeps continuing. See, in the olden days of like 2 to 3 years ago, Disney and other studios made live action remakes of their older movies just to nostalgia bait people. And it sort of worked, and Disney made a tidy profit from it, I'm sure. Now, however, Disney knows that every time they make one of these live action updated films, they piss off the fans of the original movies, who then all dogpile together and watch the new movie before criticizing it to no end. But Disney can just deflect that criticism. As we've seen, they're experts at it by now. And in any case, it doesn't matter to them. What matters is that all those people watched it, and Disney made lots of money as a result. They figured out the new system. That's the new system. You profit off the fans' anger. Nostalgia is the bait to draw them in and get their attention, and then they deliberately screw up the remakes so that the angry mob will go out and pay money to see something they know they'll hate. Disney has used the negative attention to make money. As they say, any publicity is good publicity. And the various fan bases out there are going along with it. It's all over the internet. You have all those YouTube videos of all those different channels criticizing the trailers for the new movies, talking about whatever feature aspect of the true trailer they don't like, giving it tons of attention. And then they will go out and pay money to watch the movies and keep the cycle going. That's the problem. The fan bases involved with these remakes are basically compliant with the wanton destruction of their beloved stories. I am not kidding. Honestly, it's like getting beat up with a stick, but while you're moaning and groaning in pain and agony, in the same breath you're telling the person hitting you not to stop. This behavior is just a sign of apathy. Okay? Fans clearly don't actually care enough about their franchise being ruined to simply not watch the content. Tons of people are still watching and therefore paying for the Rings of Power, and Amazon is making a killing off of it, I'm certain. There are tons of angry internet reviews. Every single one of them is still funding Amazon and thereby the Rings of Power. Yes, I know the show itself doesn't charge any fees, it's the Prime membership you have to pay for, but my point stands. If you really cared, you know what you need to do. Also, I'm sure Amazon tracks the view counts and watch time on its shows, so not watching Rings of Power anyways is a way to show Amazon a lack of interest in the show, which may make the show not worth the investment to continue making. Maybe, who knows, I heard they're contractually obligated to make 5 seasons, so we might be in this for the long haul, whether you watch it or not. So, in the end though, interestingly, apathy is both the problem and the solution here. We need to stop being so apathetic to the fact that everything we enjoy is getting remade and turned into hot garbage. And we need to start being apathetic to the garbage, ignoring it entirely and not watching it. If no one pays any attention to the movie, then no one goes to watch the movie, no one pays for the movie, and the movie flops. And when a product flops on the market and does not do well, the company making that product is going to stop making products of that kind because it's not profitable for them, which is what needs to happen with Disney and these remakes. Because right now, Disney is cannibalizing itself for content, and it's both hilarious if you're a cynic like I am, and depressing when you realize how they're destroying the legacy of their company as well as, consequently, the legacy of their founder, Disney himself. And they will not stop until they cannot make a single dollar more from it. Whatever. That's all I've got. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.